We're going to have a look at the business news now on the programme. Brian Quinn is joining us today. Brian, you're starting in France, aren't you? The government has managed to secure a new financial aid deal. This is for the country's flagship airline.
Indeed. Air France-KLM will be getting a state-backed refinancing package to help shore up its balance sheet. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire announced the deal Sunday after what he called long and difficult negotiations with the European Commission to win its approval. Air France received 10.4 billion euros in government-backed loans last year to help keep it afloat amid the pandemic. The refinancing package should help it pay those down. Details on the latest deal are a bit scarce. Brussels wanted the airline to give up 24 of its takeoff and landing slots at Paris's Orly Airport as a condition. Bruno Le Maire says that number has been negotiated down, but that more demands will be made of Air France at the domestic level.
We are helping Air France because I think that there are tens of thousands of jobs that are concerned, and it is strategic for the country. But Air France has to make efforts on its competitiveness and continue to reduce its CO2 emissions.
Now, the Finance Minister also set out some new numbers on the country's economic outlook as the third national lockdown gets underway.
That's right, Stuart. The month-long closure of some 150,000 businesses, as well as the country's schools, will be taking a bite out of the French economy this year. Le Maire says overall GDP growth is now projected to hit just 5% instead of the 6% called for before the latest lockdown. The government is spending around 11 billion euros per month to help keep businesses afloat with solidarity funds, waived social charges, and paid furlough schemes. That's expected to contribute to a 0.5% rise in the budget deficit, with public debt as a share of GDP rising from 115 up to 118%. Analysts say that all that spending still may not be enough to stave off widespread bankruptcies.
Let's check in on the markets then, Brian. What are we seeing so far today?
Well, a pretty slow day on Asian exchanges, especially markets in mainland China and Hong Kong are closed on Monday. The Nikkei in Tokyo, though, notching nearly a 1% in gains. Investors are looking at a blockbuster monthly jobs report out of the U.S. on Friday as a bellwether for a strengthening recovery in top world economies. Kospi and Seoul advancing just slightly. Shares in Korean electronics giant LG have lost around 2.5% after the company announced it's going to be pulling completely out of the smartphone market.
And finally, from Brian, this is the crucial story of the day. An admission from Amazon, this is, that its drivers, well, perhaps they don't get sufficient bathroom breaks.
A sensitive topic for the drivers there. Amazon now has publicly apologized to a member of the U.S. House of Representatives who tweeted that Amazon drivers are sometimes forced to relieve themselves into bottles to ensure that they make their deliveries on time. A Wisconsin representative, Mark Pocan, had criticized the e-commerce giant's anti-union efforts and tough working conditions. That as Alabama warehouse workers wait for the result of a vote that could create the first unionized Amazon facility ever in the U.S. An official Amazon Twitter account denied that its drivers pee in bottles. That before drivers themselves actually posted photographic evidence to the contrary, forcing them to walk that back, Stuart. It's actually a problem in a lot of these driving professions that you don't think about very much. Uber drivers, Lyft drivers.
Taxis,
where do you find a bathroom?
Exactly. I'm relieved by that story, as were the drivers.
As well. I'm sure they are.
Thank you very much, Brian. We're with Business on France 24.